Stomp, clap, flip, flap, go hard, snap back, soul step. This is the rhythm within the pages of Jewell Parker Rhodes and Kelly McWilliams' new book, Soul Step. And in studio with me today, although virtually, is New York Times bestselling author Jewell Parker Rhodes and award-winning author Kelly McWilliams. Today, we are discussing their collab of Soul Step, which is a wonderfully written and illustrated children's book on sisterhood and the tradition of dance through stepping. Welcome to the Writers Haven Show, dynamic duo.
Thank you.
I am so thrilled to have both of you here. And thank God for Cheryl Lou, right? She put this together. Did I say her last name? Right, I want to give her props. She put this together. She reached out to me. I'm so glad that she did. You know, I saw your names. I was like, okay, that's a non-starter. That's a no-brainer. Of course, I would love to have them on the show. And so she worked it out. So thank you, Cheryl, for doing that for us. And before I get started, you guys are a mother-daughter team. How long have you been writing together?
Well, it's actually just this book.
This is, oh wow. So Soul Step is your first soiree into collabing together. How was it? Let's talk about the process.
You go first, tag.
Oh, well, it's kind of like that. Like, well, you know. But actually, I had the idea for writing Soul Step, and I was going to do it as a single author. I had the contract. And as I was trying to do it, it was so much harder than I thought it would be. And so I was ready to quit. And I was telling Kelly I was going to send the money back. And she says, don't do that. Kelly, you take it from there.
Yeah, so this all happened in 2020, I should say. Picture books take a long time to sort of incubate and get to the world. But she did call me talking about this book. She had always wanted to write a book about step, and she had this amazing idea, but she couldn't get the rhythm to work through her writing. She wasn't transmitting the rhythm. And I have a theory that picture books might be the hardest type of book to write. I mostly have written for young adult authors. I have a book for adults that I've been working on, but I actually think picture books are the hardest. So we kind of took a crack at it together, and it was our very first collaboration. It was illustrated by the wonderful Briana Uchendu. But it took from 2020 until this May to hit shelves.
Wow, that's amazing.
I was
Oh, were
gonna
you
say,
about
I
to say
must
something,
say,
Jewel?
yes, I must say that it wouldn't be in existence were it not for Kelly. And I think Kelly had a lot of help in that she had my granddaughter, Clara. So she was all in that picture book writing stage with the rhythm and the chick, chicka, boom, boom, stomp, pat, zip, flap. And so once she got that, we could sort of like shape the story. But I was actually much better at editing it. And I learned a lot about my daughter and how my daughter saw us when she was growing up as being, a blended family in predominantly white neighborhood.
Okay, which was the predominant theme or a theme within the book, growing up in a neighborhood where people don't look like you and
Yeah.
how to overcome that. So you both are amazing, amazing writers by your own right. What was the inspiration behind it, Jewel?
Well, I started out as a dancer. So dance, particularly the Afro diaspora tradition, has always been important to me. I would do Afro-Cuban dancing, and I engaged in, discovering information about ritualized dance in spiritual ceremonies, both in Africa, the Caribbean, and Americas. And I went to a school that didn't have a step team, but I knew that every time there was a step, it was coming from a tradition of using rhythm, using one's body as a drum to literally communicate. It actually started in South Africa that some of the diamond miners, they would be underground, they wore gumboots, And these boots would make a big stomping sound, and that's just how they communicated. And then with slaves coming to the Americas, they brought with them that same sense of rhythm. And when they were forbidden to use the drums, they started to use their body. So whenever
Mm.
I see step, I see my history, my heritage come alive. I see
Yeah.
power. I see endurance. I just see, oh, I got to do that, express myself.
Yes, yeah, I love that. I love that. Now, are either of you Greek? I did see the AKA, in the background on one of the pictures. One of you an AKA, or you just chose
No,
AKA?
I wish. Kelly, take it away.
Yeah, and no AKA here. We have lots of good friends who are AKA. So a little
Okay.
nod to them, a little nod to our vice president, as
Yes.
this talks a lot about kids who are growing up and looking at the world around them for role models and people to look up to. And
Mm-hmm.
one part of the history of STEP is that, after it came through the diaspora and came through slavery and the plantation system as sometimes a means to communicate, sometimes even a means to plan an escape, where it went next in its lifespan was to the universities. We have
Mm-hmm.
people building Black fraternities and Black sororities and creating their own language through STEP in a very similar way. Um, and that is really what sort of endured and pushed it all the way through. We have Beyonce's Homecoming and
Yeah.
Amazing Grace, and it's just become more and more a part of this culture. But it's a really very old way to tell people this is how you can keep your head up even when times are hard. And
Yeah.
so the little girl in the book, she's looking to her mother, who's engaged in this powerful ritual, which is step dance.
Mm-hmm.
And now, for some of us parents out here, maybe it's going to church, or in the case of my mother, writing books. That was the thing that she always did. That I could see. This is how she keeps her head high when
Yeah.
things get really tough. And we have all the kids in our communities looking for what it is that keeps all of us afloat, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this little girl in this story, she sees her mom doing this step, and we wanted to honor step. We wanted to sort of explore it in a way,
Mm-hmm.
as outsiders, but also um, in a sense of commonality that, we all do something, and isn't this a beautiful thing to do?
Mm-hmm. Wow. Wow. Amazing. Now, you talked a little bit about the research that you did, looking, I guess, at videos, looking at Beyonce's film. What was your writing process, though? So you did your research, and now you're at the writing process. How did you engage individually and as a team?
Great question. I actually have a draft that I wrote, and none of it, not a word of it, appears in the book except soul step.
Okay.
That's why I was going to quit, because I think a, it's like if someone said to me, write a poem, I don't think I could do it. And I misunderstood how much like poetry a great picture book is.
Mm-hmm.
And so once Kelly was able to give me the rhythm, then it was easier to edit word fit, because I kind of like iambic pentameter, I could hear the rhythm and it would all come together. So this is a case where my daughter taught me.
Mm-hmm.
She gave me her gifts. And so the collaboration is like more props to her. And we might do another one. We put in a proposal to do another book together, another picture book called
Mm-hmm.
Soul Activate. Um, but I really feel honored that
Yeah.
I learned from my daughter. So we know that learning is matrilineal, can go both ways, grandma as well as daughter to mother. And I'm just so proud of her.
Wow, wow, that is powerful on so many levels. Thank you for sharing that. So, Kelly, what was your experience in the writing process?
So, when I got this phone call from my mother that she had a picture book project that she'd been wanting to write, and we weren't even like, she didn't even call about that. She probably called about her granddaughter in some way. And I was living, oh my gosh, I was living in Colorado Springs, and I had just, I I think I was working on or had just finished my debut novel, which was called Agnes at the End of the World. And it came out June 2020, and it was about a pandemic, which was not planned. And so I'd
Mm-hmm.
had sort of a difficult debut, and this was the summer. Also, this was a tough summer for us. This was the summer of George Floyd. It
Mm-hmm.
was there was a lot going on. We were all trying to look at sort of what our next projects were going to be, and um, I felt like I just got a call from my mom that was like, let's do something that's fun and joyful, that
Yeah.
celebrates another side of things. I mean, we both write about very serious topics. Like, so I have Agnes at the End of the World, but Mirror Girls over here is about the 1950s. It's set in the Jim Crow South.
Mm-hmm.
Um, to have this, like, I feel like she called with a breath of fresh air and said, let's write something musical. Let's write something for those smiling kindergartners, which,
Mm-hmm.
doing school visits has been such a joy. And I just sat down, like, basically the day I spoke to her. I think I actually, in addition to some of the other research, there's quite a bit of interesting academia. Elizabeth C. Fine wrote a book called Soul Stepping about the step tradition through a university press. And she really, went deep into sort of the sociology kind of aspects of it. And then I sat down one day, took a break from my real life, from sort of the real sort of world, and just got to do a thing you sometimes get to do with art and with writing, and just let joy come out and
Right.
all over the page. And I mean, this was like it came out in one session essentially. And I remember thinking, well, that's all right because Grandma Jewell will edit it. I was like, so then I got to sort of kick it over to her. I just got to do the fun part. Didn't even have to do the hard part yet, which is, revising. And
Mm-hmm.
she said she liked it, but it felt like a gift on my end too, because that was a hard summer, and
Mm.
to have a feeling of uplift at that time, to do something for children, even though it
Yeah.
wouldn't come out for many years, felt wonderful.
Right, right. Well, it is truly a gift. And thank you so much for answering the call, both of you, for producing such a wonderful work of art that is uplifting. I mean, it was one thing to see the cover, when I first got it. I was like, okay, this is interesting. I mean, my son is 33 years old, so I'm way beyond children's books. But as I was reading it, I was also being drawn into the story. I was being drawn into the rhythm that resides in the book, not only from the words and the way the rhythm of the wording um, engaged me, but just also in the content, what it was about. There are children who are growing up in that type of environment where they feel like they don't belong for whatever reason. And then learning from your elders, and then taking a step further and creating your own circle of community. It was just very uplifting to see the mom and the aunties and the cousins pour into this young lady, and that is the story of our souls historically, as a people, as African Americans, growing up in community. But certainly, this book crosses over ethnicities. Anyone can pick up the book and find the jewels, literally, and the Kellys, within the pages of the book. So again, thank you. Now let's talk about the magnificent illustration. Briana Uchendu, what was the process in incorporating her beautiful work into your book?
Brianna is a genius. She's was still a undergraduate in college when she was asked to do this book. And that just amazes me because by then she had already won the John Steptoe New Illustrator Talent Award. So
Mm.
Brianna put us on her schedule, and what she does is she did drawings in ink, graphic drawings that sort of plotted out the story. And we got to see and respond to each one of them. Our
Mm-hmm.
editor helped place then which artwork, which set of words, like sisterhood is powerful or Black Lives Matter and what
Mm-hmm.
there. And we would just go back and forth and back and forth. in publishing, they don't encourage you to talk to your illustrators. So I'm going to meet Brianna for the first time next month.
Oh,
So we've
wow.
never really spoken about doing the book. And in a
Mm.
way, it's really the three artists, Kelly, Brianna, and I, shaped this with an editorial guide. But we just knew from straight from the get-go that we had a special lady. And actually, just today there was, it's maybe not quite official, but there's an announcement that her artwork is going to be featured in a very, very upcoming special show. And I won't say it just yet because I'm not
Uh-huh.
sure I'm allowed to say it, but she
Okay.
is already being honored for the beautiful, glorious artwork she has done for this book.
Yeah, she is definitely very talented, and the fluid of the words and the images is just, it's enchanting. And definitely, again, something that pulls you in. So kudos to her, big ups to her, and I'm glad she's getting her flowers. Now, Jewell, I want to talk a little bit with you about your highly successful books. Towers Falling, Black Brother, the Louisiana Girls trilogy, Ghost Boys. And you've also written, adult themed books like I had mentioned before we started taping about my love for the Douglas Women novel that you wrote. How do you approach your writing process between the two genres of writing YA, or well, writing for children and adult fiction?
Here's the secret. I always wanted to write for children. I started writing for adults to learn how to become a better writer.
Oh, wow.
Because I think writing for children is like the highest calling.
Mm.
So I spent 30 years writing for adults, and it wasn't until Hurricane Katrina hit that all of a sudden I got the call. I went to bed, woke up, and this little girl's voice was inside my head. And it was just right there, the story of a girl, a black girl and a black boy surviving with their dog, Hurricane Katrina. And I felt as though
Mm.
I had been reborn because I was finally doing what I wanted to do. So I'm very happy with my middle grade career, writing middle grade novels, picture books, and writing my adult novels. And I've got to tell you about this one, Treasure
Oh.
Island, Runaway Gold. It
Mm-hmm.
came out last fall, and the paperback comes out this October. But
Okay.
like Ghost Boys, and even like the picture book Soul Step, it has history, and it has the history of how Wall Street once sold slaves. That's how it got its name. They had the wall for selling slaves, and
Wow.
that most of the lower part of Manhattan is actually built on the bodies, over the bodies of slaves and and free African Americans. So I get to tell that story in the
Oh
context of
my.
skateboarding pirates. So it's real history that's been sort of repressed for Black people, but told in a joyous, also nuanced manner. So our
Mm-hmm.
youth understand, who we are, where we came from, and where we keep going or choose to go in the future.
I love that. Jewel, could you hold up that book again so we can see it again? All right, Treasure Island, everybody. It is already out wherever books are sold. The paperback comes out, when did you say, Jewel?
October.
October.
And it
Okay.
has, well, I probably won't find it now, but it has beautiful illustrations by this Frenchman, French Haitian, who lives in Paris. He did the illustrations, and it really, you could see the pirate ship, the pirate signs, and he has a white kid named Jack, and then he also has, I don't know if you can see it, um, another friend who's Japanese and African
Yep. Yep.
American, and he has his dog named Spot. Yeah, you can't see that very good, but it's joyful and happy, but also very, very serious about how in the white piracy tradition, they're searching just for treasure and gold and material
Mm-hmm.
wealth. But these young kids find the spiritual wealth of the African Americans. And there's actually a museum in Lower Wall Street that they're forbidden to build upon. They were going to build a skyscraper, and instead they turned it into a memorial because they found 40 feet deep bones, skeletons of
My
people.
God.
And George Bush, during his presidency, said, we need to honor this. And so it's an African American burial ground museum. So go see that in New York. And it's not too far from the 9/11 memorial.
Wow, thank you so much for that, Jewel. And I'm sure our dream catchers appreciated getting that information too. I had not heard that before. And so we'll pick up the book and read about it, but also go to New York and visit the memorial. Thank you for that. See, we're getting all kind of golden nuggets from Miss Jewel. Let's talk to Miss Kelly now. So Kelly, you've written a number of award-winning YA books, including Mirror Girls and Agnes at the End of the World, which feature mixed race heroines. And you identify yourself as a mixed race author. Tell us why it was important to you to make that distinction for the reader and to write books featuring mixed race women.
Oh, sure. Well, I mean, I am mixed race, and specifically, as you all might have noticed, I'm white passing. And that's been an interesting detail about our family is that actually we're not often sort of seen as a family. My
Mm-hmm.
brother presents as a man of color, as a black man. I present as a white woman. To most people, you never know. And my dad is this tall white Norwegian guy. like um and so our family, we sort of got a lot of pushback from the world that we maybe didn't belong together. And I have memories going all the way back to kindergarten when my little brother came home crying, and he said, "Oh, my teacher said that I have to be adopted. I can't possibly belong to the same family. You're not my sister." Right.
Mm.
And that's how deep that sort of sense of color goes. And that sense of color, certainly colored and impacted
Yeah.
our lives. So Mirror Girls is my book set in the Jim Crow South, and it's about twin sisters who are separated at birth. One of them can pass for white, and the other one cannot, and they are fighting to get back together and discover what really happened to their parents who tried to marry in this time. And but in general, I'm interested in mixed race heroines. I'm interested in outsider characters and characters who might have their feet in both worlds, but also neither in a certain sense. Those have always been themes that have really fascinated me. And I'm also very interested in general in white passing history. There's a long
Mm-hmm.
history of people in the culture who could pass for white and who used that in various ways or chose not to use that or absolutely shut down the idea of ever sort of using something like that. Um, there's a historical figure that I'm working on a novel about right now named Walter White. He actually, not from the TV show, but he he worked for the NAACP in the
Yes, I'm very
1970s.
familiar with him.
Yeah.
Yes.
And he acted as a spy, and this brother had blue eyes and blonde hair,
Yeah,
and so he went into
yes.
the South and he did these investigations and did an immense amount of good, um, and struggled all his life with the idea that he didn't quite fit in, that he couldn't quite find the level of acceptance that he always
Yeah.
wanted to.
I am
But
so
he fought
glad that.
So
for,
it's been these are sort of just the themes that I think interest me as a writer.
tell her about the anti-lynching part he did,
Yes,
the spy work for
he
anti-lynching.
investigated lynchings throughout the South in a time before federal legislation had been passed to say that lynching was illegal. So lynching was essentially legal throughout many of these states. And this was a time when the Klan was being sort of reborn, and he acted as sort of a domestic spy to sort of see what was happening in these communities and report back, and ended up being instrumental in President Wilson speaking out against lynching as something that we cannot tolerate in American culture. And at one point too, he became the president of the NAACP.
Right, right. And I think that he was also, was he the president of the NAACP at the time of Franklin Delano Roosevelt's administration as well?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah. It's so funny because normally when I mention Walter White, people are like, Breaking Bad. So it's just cool.
No, everything you said, I cannot wait to pick. Do you have a title for that book yet?
It's tentatively titled American Nightmare.
Okay. Oh, I love the title. So you'll have to come back, Kelly, and talk to us when that book drops, and give us more insights about that. So thank you so much for spending time with me in the Haven and Dreamcatchers. I know you enjoyed my chat with Jewell and Kelly. You can pick up Soul Step wherever books are sold, and visit Jewell's website at jewellparkerrhodes.com. That's 2 L's for Jewell, jewellparkerrhodes.com, and Kelly at kellymcwilliamsauthor.com.